Okay, so I'll be showing these a couple of times. So if you're just checking in, you can get all your stuff ready. The stuff you'll need for class are paints and papers and any old bunches of trash. I've actually got and grabbed some junk, the kind of stuff I love collecting. I love collecting ticket stubs and parking tickets and tea bag envelopes. And this was from some kind of Italian panettone. I thought that was so pretty. I love receipts. So I've got a bunch of stuff, but I thought maybe I would start because I had all these ideas while I was with my granddaughter. I wanted to talk about how important grays and browns and neutrals are. So we're going to be using some of those today. I know this class is called Total Improv, but there's going to be a few little directions to go in. Grays and browns, this is Robert Motherwell. This is a collage. This is a really beautiful watercolor. This is a gorgeous Stuart Davis. I love this piece. These are watercolors. Oh, this is such a wonderful painter. This is a detail of a Richard Yard. Richard Yard was a family friend of my family's. My uncle loved his work, and I actually own a couple of Richard Yard paintings. They're very beautiful. He's such a good watercolorist. Anyway, I'm going to be talking a little bit about this book. I know we're going to be doing Total Improv. So this is a detail of a sergeant. Just notice how he pops color by using all these beautiful neutral grays and darks. Just so many browns and grays pop the color. And this is, we're going to be talking a little bit about color. I know it's Total Improv, but there's just going to be a couple of directions we kind of go in because I can't help it, can't help myself. Absolutely gorgeous Winslow Homer watercolor. To get this incredible, I don't know if you can really see it, this feeling of this color here. There's a lot of color in this watercolor, but there's tons of grays and neutrals to get that beautiful sense of the blue and that pop of the earth sienna right here. So I've just been working on how to get some of these colors in that Winslow Homer because we're going to be looking at. I'm going to be doing a teeny bit of talking about some artwork before we start because I'm going to urge you to grab first some colors for a lot of neutrals to end up like in this hopper, for example. This is a really beautiful Edward Hopper painting. You can see this. This is, where is this? This is at the Fog. This whole book is about a watercolor show at the Fog. And I started looking at it in detail this morning. And I just kept thinking, oh my God, this just has all the beautiful little tips of how to get great color into a collage. So to get this feeling of light over here and the feeling of light here and in the street and even on the tree, he's making a huge contrast between light and dark. And there's lots of grays and browns. And then this color just pops forward. So really nice way to get a sense of light. Often these pieces with beautiful color have a lot of grays and browns. This is a Stuart Davis, which I think looks so collage-like. It's a watercolor. But doesn't that just look beautiful with these, you know, with all these weird shapes? And of course, these are paintings, they're not collages, but I think everything is sort of like a collage. I just want you to just notice how much gray, black, and brown is in this piece, because there's a lot. If you really, like at first, this piece looks so darn colorful. And then you start to realize that these are the donkey colors. these are colors that support all the bright colors, the browns and the grays and the blacks and the neutrals. I'm just going to bring up a couple questions. What do you think neutrals are? And you might want to take some notes, because I think this is going to be really interesting, because it's very confusing what neutrals are. Well, neutrals are these colors. They are generally colors without very much color in them. So they don't compete with primary and secondary colors. If you look at a color wheel, you will be looking at primary colors and secondary colors, but not so much neutrals. Neutrals are beiges, ivories, browns, grays, blacks. And sometimes I associate neutrals with light colors, but of course neutrals can be dark as well. So in a piece like this, there's a lot of popping color. Like this, I saw this piece in person. This was a beautiful show. That was the Fog last year in Cambridge, and it's so dynamic. And yet there's all these donkey colors that are supporting the bright colors. So this is a great way to get color to pop. So you have this really bright yellow green and this bright red and turquoise, and all these colors are kind of supporting them. By the way, everybody should know who this artist is. He's so unusual. His name is Bill Traylor, and he was African-American and was making work in the 1930s, 40s. And this was pretty much one of my favorite pieces in the whole show. He made artwork on large pieces of trash that he found. He was extremely poor and and untrained, but he had this fire to make art, and he made a lot of art, and they're absolutely gorgeous, and they're so collage-like. They're so beautiful. This piece was so beautiful. This is like 2.5 feet wide. He found a big piece of trash and painted on it. I had to tell you about him because he's important. Okay, so I'm just giving a little talk, and one of the reasons I'm giving a little talk is because I was babysitting yesterday for my granddaughter, and then my son and my daughter-in-law couldn't get home because the weather prevented them from coming home. They couldn't catch a ferry, and I babysat overnight until 12 o'clock today. And it went really well. It's the first time I've stayed over with her, and I had her for over 24 hours. Anyway, I ended up looking at art books with her because she loves to look at art books. And this book, which is called American Watercolors, it's called Into the Light. The show is called Into the Light. This show was at the Fog in Cambridge, and I was looking at it and I kept thinking, I've got to talk to my class about how artists use browns and grays and neutrals to support color that's going to pop. And of course, then I thought, okay, I'm going to throw in a little bit of stuff about composition too. So this is Robert Motherwell. These were extremely important collages he made in the early 1950s. No one had ever really made work like this. If you think you see a little bit of Picasso in here, it's because he was very influenced by Picasso. So he did take, no artist lives in a total vacuum. There's nobody in a total vacuum. Although I could say that Bill Traylor is sort of a, what are they called? Artists that are very isolated, kind of like Grandma Moses. Motherwell in this piece,
Outside
I want
artists.
What are they?
Outside artists.
Thank you, Terrell. Okay, perfect. Outside artists. An artist that, maybe the Geese Bend quilters were outside artists. Well, certainly not among their own community, but in the sort of art world. Motherwell made a series of collages because Peggy Guggenheim suggested she said, let's have a show of collages. And he took to it. And Jackson Pollock was also invited, and he didn't like making them. But Motherwell fell in love with collage, and his early collages are really important. But I want you to imagine this collage without the black drawing on it. The black drawing, which is really of a figure, and of course it's called collage number 1, but you can sort of see it's pretty obviously a figure. This is like a hand and the body and the head. If you just try to imagine this without the figure, it's going to be completely different and also not really hold together. So this drawing just brings the whole thing together. So sometimes making a very disparate, a bunch of shapes, and then making a drawing over it with like a black line, doesn't have to be black, that can really pull something together. And that's a great example of a really beautiful collage. And then notice how the browns, grays, and neutrals support this red and this yellow. And by the way, all his red was shocking pink in this series of collages, pretty much. And he was using some kind of paint that faded. So now it's all light pink. And he didn't give a damn. You know, later in life, somebody said, well, are you upset that your collages changed color so much? And he said, no, it doesn't. My work doesn't interest me after I've done it. If it changes, that's fine. I thought that was kind of cool. So there's Bill Traylor. Everybody should just make a little note to look at his work. I've been looking at his work lately, and it is beautiful and very collage-like. The shapes really feel cut out, even though they're painted. Okay, so we looked at this Stuart Davis. I'm just going over it really quickly. Lots of bright colors supported by lots of grays, browns, and blacks. And I wanted to talk about this hopper. Do you see the neutrals? No, it's getting in my way. Do you see the neutrals in this hopper? It's so annoying, this little thing. Okay, there we go, that's better. All right, so let's just look at this. It's very hard to make a painting that gives the gravity of the ocean, the color of an ocean. And I don't know how much he's changed everything. This might be very accurate, but the ocean really pops in this painting. And I want you to think about, like, the sky is not really blue. It's really gray. It's kind of a lightish bluish gray. The land is very bleached out. There's lots of grays. And then there's that burnt sienna, kind of a burnt sienna building. He is probably making the dark darker than it actually was to emphasize the light, the feeling of brick. Hopper did this all the time. He emphasized the light. Everything about Hopper is about light. Hopper is all about light. And this, he's often making the darks, the shadows darker than they actually were to emphasize the light. And that's important to remember. And it doesn't matter that we're not doing landscape painting. It's all the same. If you want the feeling of lights and darkness and richness in a collage, throw in these combinations. Throw in a dark and a light of the same tone. Throw in a dark green and a bright green. Throw in a dark blue that's almost black and a light blue. This will give it your pieces a sense of light and color. There's really not any difference between landscape painting and abstraction, I don't think. I think it's all the same. I think we're always dealing with the same principles. But somehow he has really given you this chunk of ocean that is really what this painting is about. And actually, compositionally, everything is tipped toward the ocean. If you see these lines, they're kind of pointing, and just boom. It's all about this. It's all about the ocean. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's really quite a gridded piece because there's the horizon line. That's kind of like there's sort of chunks, stages. And even in this hopper, there's the horizon line. There's quite a lot of neutrals in this. There's this sort of bleached out land, lots of grays in here. And the sky, once again, is more gray than blue. And then you get, everything is about this sort of feeling of light on that lighthouse, and the light, 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 light. Everything is about light. And he's really just throwing it at you. Okay, so this is an important, beautiful, amazing Sargent, John Singer Sargent. He did this in 1910. This is in Florence. So he wants the feeling of flowers popping, all this light. There is so much dark in this piece, and grays, and there's your good old burnt sienna again. Grays, browns. He's scratching into the watercolored surface to get these lines. Absolutely gorgeous. And actually, in this piece, he's used a resist of wax. He's taken either a candle or some kind of wax and put it on the paper so that he can retain some of these pinks, so that he didn't muddy anything up, because he really wants those little splashes of color. Okay, so I'm going to be sort of focusing on this Winslow Homer, done in 1898. I'm going to be showing you some of these colors just at the beginning of class, and then we'll probably work very quietly. I have a few plans. And there, I mean, do you see a lot of gray in this? A lot of neutrals, tons of neutrals, tons of grays. And generally, painters don't usually just make gray out of white and black. I played around with these grays in here today, and I used almost no black. But Winslow Homer is using some black. I think he is using some black. So I did introduce a little bit of black. As a landscape painter, I often didn't use any black. I just mixed dark colors together. There's nothing wrong with using black, but if you use black to darken colors all the time, everything will get grayed out. So that's a danger. And that's the same thing of always trying to use white to lighten everything. It doesn't matter. I can be talking about collage colors. I'm not just talking about landscape painting. If you're always throwing white into something to lighten it, you might actually kill the feeling of light in a piece. There's nothing wrong with pastel colors and colors with white in them, but you often need some transparencies. Like this burnt sienna absolutely has no white in it, but he's using paint on the watercolor paper, and the white from the paper is shining through in a very, like, this is a very important piece of this painting. This is kind of where the color just shines. It shines out really beautifully. And right there too. And that's Prussian blue over the paper. All right, so we're going to be coming back to that when we mix some colors up. I wanted to show this Winslow Homer. Winslow Homer was one of the genius painters. Did this in 1885. And the sky, very gray. Lots of neutrals here, lots of darks. And this comes off as a very colorful piece. I mean, it's just glowing, right? But that's because all these donkey colors are holding up. They're holding up, and so is this gray of the sky. So it's like all those neutrals end up letting the color sting, okay? And there's the detail of the Sargent. We don't need to look at that again. By the way, another painter, just in case you don't know him, Charles Birchfield, he did this in 1916. Like Bill Traylor, just write down Charles Birchfield, that's Burchfield. Unbelievable, spiritual, interesting artist who is able to look at landscape and make the weirdest paintings and drawings that feel like they are vibrations. They're very vibrational. Okay, so there's that. And where is the grays and browns? This one. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to mix a few grays just for fun, just as a beginning. And I should have that. Oh, well, I kind of know what I'm doing. All right. So I've got a piece of paper here. And I've got my little paper palette. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some, and you could just write this down. You don't have to do it with me. We're going to be improvising collage, and that can mean just about anything. But I just want to, because I want to show you a few tricks today. So I've got Prussian blue. I've got some burnt sienna. I'll just put these here. So
I'm sorry, what kind of blue is that? Oh, there it is.
Prussian blue. And some of you may not have light, bright red. It's called light, bright red, but it's also called Indian red. But if you have burnt sienna, that's fine too. I don't know if you can sort of tell, but Indian red is just, it's just a very beautiful, brighter burnt sienna. It as actually was on Corot's palette. I always think of Corot's palette as being the basic landscape palette for 19th century artists. I'm going to put a blob of white. And I am going to use a little bit of black. I'm going to have black over here. And then there is, I wanted a tiny bit of any pure red. Okay. And I'm going to have my water. Okay, so I just want to show you, oh, I need a green. I'm going to get the sap green, but you could use Hooker's green. This is like a beautiful kind of dark green. You could really use any kind of green. Okay. Oh, this one is just somebody put something in the chat. I'm just going to check it. Oh, okay, D, I think you figured out you would put something in the chat. Okay, so I've got my brush. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you. We're just going to put a little bit of, I'm just going to show you a little bit of Prussian blue. You could use really, you don't have to have Prussian blue. You could use ultramarine. You could use cobalt. I think Winslow Homer was using Prussian, but okay. And then I'm going to show you how gorgeous. Oh, camera kind of gets stuck. This is burnt sienna. And without, I'm just going to dip into the Indian red a little bit to show you how it's a little bit brighter. But if you do not have Indian red, I'm going to show you how to get it. So you're going to take the, why I just keep forgetting. Okay, burnt sienna and a little bit of bright red together make pretty much that color. Looks a little different, but it's similar. So these are absolutely gorgeous colors. They're just beautiful. Okay, now I'm just gonna show you my green. And these are some of the colors in the Winslow Homer. But now let's see how he mixes everything up. So I think I'm going to get a bigger brush. So I'm going to take a bunch of white because you are going to need white to make gray. I'm going to take some of the Prussian blue and I'm just going to let some of that red mixture in there and some green. I'm just going to kind of melange them around. Mélanger. And then I'm going to see what kind of gray I've got going. Well, it's absolutely gorgeous, of course. This was without using any black. Absolutely beautiful color. I know I'm really fast and I'm sorry. I am too fast. But one of the reasons that you get the recordings is then you can kind of, you know, if I go too fast, you can look at them later. All right, now let's just see what happens if I add I kind of wanted to show you what a gray looks like without any other colors in it. So maybe I'll get a fresh brush. So if I just take white and black, and of course my brush just touched on a little bit of something else, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually quite beautiful. And I think a tiny bit of the burnt sienna went in there. But I mean, that's kind of beautiful too, but they're beautiful together, right? You can get so many grays without black. There's nothing wrong with black, but I just urge people to mix lots of things together. And then in the Homer, there's quite a few areas that look very bluish gray. So let's see if I got that feeling of very bluish gray. So you just add a little more of the Prussian. Okay, now I'm going to show you one of the things that he did in that painting. He had that beautiful, I think he was only using burnt sienna. But he was doing these kind of, so you see how bright it is when it's over white, and that's going to be brighter than obviously going on top of the gray, but he's doing both. And then you can do the same thing with a green. You can make some. And it starts to actually feel kind of like that watercolor. So we're just, kind of using some of the ideas. Okay, now I'm going to show you something I painted before class. I painted just some shapes, okay? And I painted them on a piece of white paper, nothing fancy. And the reason I did this is because I want to show you how when I cut these shapes out and I get rid of all the white shapes are really great to use in collage. So in other words, all the shapes that I cut away from the painted shapes make really cool shapes for our collages. And what we'll do is we'll do that. So I'll just do it right here. Like I'll just take some of this paint. I'll just mix all the colors up. I don't really care. And I'll make some painted shapes because I want to show you how cool it is to put white shapes back into a collage today when we start improvising. So in other words, the shapes I'm painting will be cool to use in collage, and so will the shapes that are left in the white paper. And I just play, I'm not trying to, I just like to get some shapes going here. And please ask questions if you have them, because I'm really aware of that I go really fast. I am aware of it. People have been telling me lately, go really fast. By the way, green and reds combined make really beautiful, dark, muddy, interesting, gorgeous colors. Like, look at this color. It looks like black, but it's really this gorgeous kind of rust. I've been painting a lot of shapes for my collages lately, and then I cut them out, and then I find that I'm using the whites like crazy. The leftover white shapes. I think it's very freeing to paint things that you know you're going to cut up later. So you're not trying to make a good painting. You're just making cool stuff to just completely cut, you know, take apart later. That helps me feel free. That helps me. It is a form of improvisation. Connecting that up. Shape. So you can, you know, of course, just completely take off, you know, painting your own, whatever you want to do. But I love all these colors, just big, they're kind of interesting colors. Gorgeous color is black and blue mixed together. Black to make a blue black. It's a nice color. So sometimes people say to me, well, what is a neutral? Neutrals are ivories, beige, tan, black, gray, brown. Those are neutrals. They are colors you do not see on the color wheel. Okay, now I'm going to show you something kind of cool. I'm just going to put some white on here and make a big mess of whatever happens with all these colors. And maybe I'll even just scrape them into a, I can scrape them into a container and then I can have a nice gray. Red will generally kind of take over. Let's see if I can add some more blue. Red is a very strong color. That's why a lot of times people just get purple and then they get kind of, they like, is a you know, an alizarin crimson or a red will kind of dominate. I'm just going to get some, I'm just going to paint some solid gray, maybe just solid gray. Just have some gray. Because I'm talking so much about grays, I don't know if everybody has grays. So this way you just mix up everything for kind of an experimental gray color. And I could add a little more black into it. And it's really dark. Kind of nice though. Kind of a beautiful dark gray. Remember the Sergeant? Remember how dark some of that color got? Really dark. Always good to have a bunch of grays lying around. I'll be using this color later in the class. And maybe I'll just do some shapes here, kind of gray. Recently I was with a student who said, oh my God, I just feel like my work has all these phalluses. And I'm like, so what? That's like, I think it's really interesting to put body part shapes. I think a lot of body parts, when you think about, genitalia, that they're very suggestive, there's lots of suggestive shapes, sexual shapes. But really, if you start thinking about kidneys and livers, and I don't know, I think they're so impelling. I think we end up making a lot of shapes that are from our bodies, and I love those shapes. And I love to see artwork where it's sort of daring. It's like maybe it's not always beautiful, or it's beautiful ugly, or it's because it's so amazing that we're so close to our organs and yet so far away from them. And of course, lots of artwork is filled with suggestions of, like, think of Miro. Miro has all these shapes going on. Beautiful. Like, be brave about the shapes that other people might, go, ooh, that just looks like a penis, or that looks like a vagina, or whatever. I do all these, drawings that people always tell me they look like female genitalia, and I don't give a shit. So what? Cool. I am a female after all. So, everything we make is sort of a self-portrait. So bring on the suggestiveness. Okay, so I'm gonna move all my brushes and stuff for a minute. And one of the things I'm going to do with this, I'm working ahead of everybody because I just have to, because I'm going to cut these pieces free, and then I'm going to show you what I've got, and then we're going to start working on collages. And I'm pretty sure everybody in this class has quite a few painted papers. I don't think anybody's new. For class, I looked for all my grays and browns and blacks and some bright colors too. The rain on the roof of my studio is really loud. You can hear it. That's what it is. So this is a great practice to paint shapes, let them dry, and then set them free of the paper, but don't forget to keep all the negative spaces you're cutting away. As you know, in Matisse's cutouts, he used them all the time. the pieces that were cut from the shapes. I just loved using. And sometimes I like the white shapes better than the painted shapes. All these classes are meant to be exercises that maybe you run with them later, or you just take the class and you get a lot of practice in doing cool exercises. Some people just take the class, and some people do the class and then they work, you know, the next day or something on the same exercises. The other thing is sometimes these pieces have a little bit of color on them, which I really love. Just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it here. Maybe if I put, there's just a little bit of color on these edges, and I just love those. A really nice way to warm up in the studio. Just paint some shapes, cut them out, get all this stuff going. The other day, somebody came to my studio and he said, why do you need more stuff? You have so many piles of things. Like, don't you have enough painted stuff? And I said, well, it's the act of warming up, and it's like, it's the journey and not the destination, right? I mean, I need to warm up the way a musician needs to warm up. I need to play my guitar for a couple hours before I can write a song. I need to play. And this is what that is. Okay. If this is almost dry. This one isn't quite dry for me to cut out. I could actually cut out a little bit of it. Mine are quite dry. All right, so I'm going to use some of these shapes, but I feel like I need to in like just three minutes or so, at 4:45, I'm just going to start collaging just on any surface, and I'm going to give you a little demonstration of how I might do this. So just keep working on, I don't know if any of your shapes are dry. They might, your paintings might not be dry to cut the stuff out yet. Always the problem with working on Zoom. I can't really tell where everybody's at. By the way, this was me painting earlier today. Was this just in class? No, that was not the one in class. Okay. This was the one in class. And then this was the one. And I was having fun with that. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit longer before I cut out the dark shapes. I definitely love to start collaging on a funky surface, just on some paper. So I'm just gonna get my glue ready, which is the acrylic matte medium, my little scraper. I'm just gonna push this paper up a little bit. And I've got my trash. This is not going to be that interesting. So even if you're working on your colored stuff, I'm just going to start collaging anything down, anything, just my trash. I just like to do that. Just on an ordinary old piece of paper. I'm going nowhere, doing nothing. And that's, I have devised lots of ways of working that make me feel free. Because there was a long time when I made paintings in a very different way, and they felt like a kind of prison to me. And I never in a million years thought I would end up making this kind of work. But it's what makes me happier. I really like the process. And you know, people say to me, "Oh, you're so good at landscape. You should just do landscape." And I know I'm good at it, and I sometimes felt the power of it, but it felt like prison. So you can't, you know, you gotta do what feels liberating. What makes you happy? Because it doesn't really matter if you're really good at something that doesn't make you happy, then it's not very good for you. And then sometimes this kind of working is just as hard as the other kind of working. So I don't really know what I think about anything. So I'm just throwing down anything just to get going, just to get the kind of collage going. Maybe I'll throw in a color. Sometimes, you know, I heard an artist say that when he went to a studio and started working, it sometimes felt kind of like jumping out of a window, like it's kind of scary, you know, like, what am I doing? It's like risky. It's such an intense, I mean, it can be really fun and wonderful, and it can also not always be fun and wonderful. Sometimes it's scary to jump into something, to jump into making art. So I just say jump in and don't be attached. Don't try to make anything good. Don't try to make anything good. Like, just go with it. I'm throwing in some of my pieces. So these are the painted shapes, and I'm working ahead of you guys. So I painted these before class, so they're dry. So yours may not be dry. And you can also just grab a shape off your table if you haven't had time to paint shapes. Just make notes about how I ran the class. Sometimes I know I'm just going too fast for everybody, because kind of the nature of working on Zoom.
Alexandra?
Yeah.
It's Dee. I've recently taken a class on value and also a class on color theory.
Nice.
And I am finding it is so paralyzing that I can't do, somehow or other, it has stopped me in my tracks to
I know.
this
I know
stuff.
all about it. I know all about it, because one time I was at Snow Farm and I was teaching a collage class, and somebody else was doing a color theory class, and two of the people switched into my class because they felt it was just, there was something so painful. And I also kind of study color. I mean, I'm a colorist, right? I know it's too rigid or something. Well, do you have the David Hornung book?
On color? On color?
Yeah, let me get
I might.
I have to show it to you. Unless I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Well, okay, so this is the David Hornung book on color. And I've never taken his class because I don't really want to know everything that he teaches, but I love the feeling of some of the exercises that, like, I love the color is by an artist named Deborah Zlotsky. I mean, that's not just beautiful color. I think that's really beautiful. But one of the things he does is he shows you how much grays and browns bring out color. And so just some really cool exercises like that are kind of fun. But show me a color wheel and I almost want to throw up. I'm sorry, Dee, but that's how I feel. I just love these little exercises. He's basically taking all these, he's only using 4 colors to mix all these colors, and then everything mixed together makes the gray of the ground. But they're just, it's a beautiful example of what you can do with very few colors and how the grays and browns pop the beautiful colors. You know, you get this red pops because of all these beautiful grays and browns.
Could you, I guess my question is, we do such process art that we don't think before we do it. And so I end up like the phrase in the values class that just has stopped me in my tracks is she said, everybody seems to play in the middle ground. And so I came home and I checked out the values on all my notebooks, and I am definitely playing in the middle ground, apparently.
Okay, well then let's just, I mean, I think if you study Winslow Homer, he's got some dark darks and some light lights, and then there are a lot of middle grounds. But there's a beautiful variety. I don't know. I look at people like this for getting into color. But I mean, does that mean that most people don't have dark darks and light lights? It's all sort of the same tone?
Yes, that she's saying if you can, put these things through these new apps and show the values, and
Oh God.
you get this kind of wash of it. And
Yeah, I don't know.
I know. Anyway, I'm glad, I'm just confessing. I can't get started again.
Oh, gosh. Well, I just, it's sort of, it happens to me too. I get really freaked. I don't want to take a color. I don't think in terms of color wheels. I think when I was a landscape painter and a still life painter, I just looked at color and I instinctually mixed colors, and that's the way I worked. I don't think of color in terms of warm and cool. I don't think, I can't, I don't know. It's just all super instinctive, and I like to just look at masters. Okay, so when I get shapes like this, I might go, oh, okay. Here's a receipt. And maybe I'll throw in a shape. I just usually just grab whatever is near me, but maybe I'll just throw in a little shape of this paint. As you all know, I love to use trace paper. I do, I just love it. I don't know, Dee, it's too much thinking. Too much, I'm all about just working, but I think it's a good awareness. So I sometimes, when I'm teaching, I say, okay, the collage is atonally too much the same. Like, that is something I will often say to people. There's an atonal quality. And I think that is a weakness in artwork a lot. So, that is, but all you have to be aware of is, let's just look at him again one more time, how totally critical, how totally critical this black shape is right here. And once again, it doesn't matter that we're talking about something that's realistic, because this is actually quite unreal. I mean, there's a lot of abstraction in here, but just look at that dark, 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 very dark up here. Tons of beautiful light. The gesture, there's just, like, show that to your teacher. Talk to your teacher about Winslow Homer. Because this is not atonal. There's a lot of variety and contrast in here. Look at art that turns you on and mimic it. Like, and maybe some of it will be atonal. I mean, is that atonal? Not really. What about that? Is that atonal? No. There's lots of darks, lots of lights, lots of neutrals, and lots of bright color. Is that atonal? So, I mean, I think it's really good to find artists that you love and emulate them. I really think that. Sometimes all these classes, if it paralyzes you, I don't know. I don't think that's that great for you. Okay, I am, I'm starting to improvise in collage now with all this stuff, and I want to show you something I might do, which is to cut up the whole thing. So when I start working, I might take apart the whole damn thing. Show you how I do this. Because I don't want to get attached. I don't want to get attached at all. Now I'm going to put it back. I think I'm going to cut up the whole thing because it doesn't really fit on Zoom. I'm going to cut everything up. So not only are you painting shapes, But then you're cutting up, then you're going to cut up even the thing you work on. And then I'm just going to collage things together. I'm going to cut up my collage and piece it back together. I don't know why I fell in love with this kind of working, but I did. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Like that, like that. When in doubt, cut the whole damn thing up and patch it back together. You wanted total improv. That's what you're getting today.
So Alexandra, I'm going to sound really ignorant here, but atonal is just everything the same tone.
Okay, yeah, so if you had a kind of sunglasses on that just turned everything kind of the same shade, everything becomes sort of atonal. But you know, if you take a drawing class or if you're in some kind of art school class, you might come in and there'll be like white boxes and black cones and gray, all different shades of gray, you know, bricks and blocks. And it's a great exercise to take color out of everything and just study what tones things are. So it's really, you know, if you take a black and white photograph of your studio, everything's going to be in different shades of white, black, and gray. But colors also have tones. So what I think Dee is talking about is her teacher saying that a lot of people just use the middle tone of most colors. And I think you can get away from that by having colors that pop, having colors that play the donkey role of hoisting the colors that pop, as we talked about earlier in class today. You know, you have all these beautiful grays and browns and neutrals, and then you have like singing red. You might have a super dark color, like in the Winslow Homer, and then a super light color. You have more of a variety of tones. Isn't that, Dee, what she's sort of talking about?
Yes. It's like that
So,
thing about
yeah.
the squinting. If you squint, you're going to see it. And even if you put this red piece of paper on it, you can turn it into a black and white photograph of it, and you see the contrast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, yeah, I think it's just helpful to well, like I don't know. So Dee, like, give me an example of a piece that maybe your teacher showed the class that has really good variety. Like, are there any, like, I don't know, like Guernica or something?
I'm not sure we were using this app. So we were all supposed to bring some photographs of something in nature that we could abstract. And the way she was getting us to abstract it was to run it through this thing that turned it black and white. We could sort of really see the lights and the darks and what the shapes were and stuff like that.
Right. Well, have you been enjoying it? Do you feel like you're learning?
Well, I think what I'm saying is it sort of paralyzed me, actually, in a weird way. Like, I mean, I'm trying to be aware of it, but working this way, you know how I often do these things that look like wallpaper, which they're not achieving that. So, but
know
at
what?
least I'm
yeah.
aware of it now. So,
Yeah, but that's kind of painful to if somebody says, well, almost everything you make is atonal. Like that's kind of hurts. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess I go back to my I guess my advice is to find artists whose work you love. And you kind of get that feeling when you see their work and you go, oh, I want to work like that. Do you have some artists like that you just love their work?
I don't think I can think of it off the top of my head, but a lot of some of the people you've shown us over the years, definitely.
Yeah.
What's her face? The lady with
Li-
Carter and some people like that. And I don't know. Let me think who else. Well, I love what's his face? Diebencourt. I mean, if I could figure out how to work like look like Diebencourt, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Diebencourt is just so incredible. But you know what? He's very classic too. I mean, like just very but you seem very well, you like his abstract work. Because I think of you as being very abstract. Of course, he did lots of abstraction, right? Oh, did I lose you, Dee? Hope I didn't lose you. So actually I'm thinking a lot about Diebencourt these days because I'm doing a Saturday class about his drawing. And you know what I love about Diebencourt was his looseness. Now, Dee, are you more interested in his abstraction or his realistic work? Probably both, right?
Abstraction.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you're really an abstract artist. I mean, you could kind of say this is pretty atonal. I mean, is that atonal?
Yeah, but because he's using complements, they bounce between each other, even if they are the same tone. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The blue and yellow create this bounce, this tension, or this, even if they are at the same shade or tone.
Yes, they do. And this is that. Here's an example of a lot of grays, a lot of kind of the donkey colors, and then this yellow just jumps out. I mean, atonally, a lot of this is the same, but of course that yellow isn't. I don't know. I don't really think like that. Of course, I love the sense of things underneath other surfaces. I love the looseness. He was looking at Matisse.
Well, it's also the space that's created.
Right.
So you have this other sort of dimension happening.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Beautiful color. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just sounds kind of hard if it's making you unhappy, If it's paralyzing you, I don't know. That doesn't sound that great. But maybe, there's a difference between when you're stretching. Like, I think I've told people if you ask me to draw something from memory, if you ask me to draw something realistic from memory, it actually makes me feel sick. Like, it's not good for my brain to do that. I love to draw from nature, or I love to draw abstractly. But if I try to draw from memory something realistic, it actually makes me ill. Now, does that mean I'm scared of it and I'm shying away from something I should learn? maybe, but I'm too old to give a shit about that really. And, um, you know, I think I've shown people, it's almost a joke. Here, I'll show you again. But I've shown people this. If you ask me to draw a horse from memory, I just want to go like this. I mean, I just have no interest. I just don't want to do it. It doesn't, it just made me feel sick. Now, if I was outside looking at horses, I'm all about wanting to draw them. And I love drawing abstractly, you know, I can just draw forever with my weird shapes and my stuff. And I can just go crazy all the time with kind of an abstract way of drawing, but I don't want to draw something realistic from memory. So when we're artists, we have to sort of figure out what helps us stretch to learn, and then what maybe we just aren't interested in. Because you don't have, you know, I always thought you need 700 years to be an artist. Like, I think I need 700 years to be an artist. Well, I don't have 700 years. You know, if I'm lucky, I'm gonna have like 75 years or 80 or 85 or whatever, or maybe till next week, who knows? But so I'm gonna try to know the difference between something that doesn't interest me and something I should be learning, you know, that would be good for me to learn. I don't want to go to my French class every week. But it's really good for my brain. It just is. And my French gets better when I do it. And it really gets so much better. So I know it's good for me to go to French. I don't really love it that much. I kind of dread it actually, but I feel really good after I've done it. Do I want to go to weightlifting? No, but it's fun because there's nice people there and I know it's good for me. And it helps my knees because I'm doing my knee exercises that my PT told me to do. And I just do them twice a week when I go to the weightlifter guy. So, you know, there's things that I don't want to do, but I do. So it may not be your cup of tea to do this class, you know, but it also might be you're resisting because you're trying to stretch. But you know what? It sounds, I'll never forget that time at Snow Farm when people switched into my class because it just was too, I don't know. It was just too, it didn't make them happy to do it.
Well, I'm adopting the we're just gonna play and see where it takes us attitude.
That's a great attitude.
Get through this.
I think that's a good attitude. So now I'm cutting it up again. And now we are going to go into the very quiet part of the class where we just work together. And all that awareness of the neutrals and the grays and the browns, forget about them and just work because it's just stuff to be aware of. And sometimes they're really helpful colors. And I don't know
Have
if
you
I'm
started using your white shapes yet?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Helen. What I'll do is I'll make an over busy collage that's too busy. And then I'll show you how I simplify by reintroducing those white shapes, because this has been really sort of revolutionary for me in my collages lately to reintroduce the white shapes. There's quite a lot of white in here. Okay, but thank you for that. Thank you for the reminder.
Or I had made my little pile here, so I was wondering what I was going to do with them.
So I'm just setting up I'm gonna see if I can make a too busy collage. Just work, just completely nuts. Okay, I have to overwork a piece. That shouldn't be that hard. Oops. Consciously overwork a piece, okay. Kind of hard to consciously overwork a piece. It's really strange. Try it. Try. I mean, I overwork stuff all the time, but to consciously overwork something, kind of a different story. They're such cool papers. I can plan a class all I want and sometimes something else happens. Because it's like, I kind of envisioned making different kinds of collages, but I can't always control what happens here.
No pressure.
No, it's what I wanted to do with the white shapes. It's so great. Really been having fun with them. So I think a good rule of thumb is just to keep your hands moving. And you might just say, well, wait, isn't that just also freaking random? And I say random. So depends on what, you know. Okay, so let's just think about that idea of randomness. I am looking for spontaneous and emotional work. I love spontaneity. I really do. And the feeling that, well, is it random? Maybe it is random, but I like to work until there's some weird part of me leaves the room, and then I feel like I really work. And I'm channeling something. It's not an intellectual process. And actually, Dee, are you still here? I think she had to get off because her computer is about to blow up. But I could say to Dee, the trouble with analyzing stuff is it's not compatible with making stuff. So being critical of your own work is totally important, and it's part of being an artist, but it's separate from the making. So it's really tricky. So how do you when you make, you have to feel really free. So I think the best thing to do, Dee, and I know you're not here right now, is to just learn from this teacher everything you can learn, and then forget it all. And it'll go in there. It's like learning drawing skills. You get them under your belt and then you forget them, but they come out when you draw. Everything you learn in art sort of goes in there, goes into the pot. So it's always really healthy to learn. And it sounds like, you might need more contrast in your work. If that's what she's saying, that you lack contrast in your pieces. You could also send me some examples of your work, and I could think about what she said and see if I see the same.
I'm guessing she wasn't directing it to her personally, but just saying, look at your own work and look at the, because I'm sure I have the same thing, right? We all stick to a certain range of colors, and it's just an interesting way to look at it. You may or may not want to change it, but it's just a tool to sort of look at it a different way, maybe. I don't think it was personal, though.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's personal, but if it's affecting her in a way of completely paralyzing her, I'm just thinking,
yeah, it's kind of weird.
That may not be that great, but it is always valuable to learn and to not take it personally. And I don't think she is taking it personally. I think she's looking at it like, okay, I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
And usually if I take a class, I usually walk away with only like a couple of things I learned, because I can't learn that much. Like in an art class, if I take a week-long class, I've done that a few times. I usually come out having learned a couple of really, I'll remember a couple of things, not that many things.
Right.
Okay, now I think I'm going to introduce the white back in. Okay, so I'm going to look at my shapes. Where did they go? Oh, I'm going to look at ways I might simplify this piece. You have to give up a lot. I was going to play with this. Look for more things. sort of don't know if I like the orange. Oh. I might be doing a little too much. I think I'm gonna do one piece at a time. See what happens here. Weather has been so bizarre. Oh. It's still crooked. I guess this got crooked. Okay, there we go.
It's funny when you start talking about, picking colors of somebody you like. Suddenly I'm doing Milton Avery colors. I didn't intend to, but I just started thinking about it, and all of a sudden they started appearing, which are very pastel-y kind of.
Yeah. Well, don't you think we're just different every day? And so we choose different, especially I think women are so changeable.
We're so moody.
Well,
That's what men always say.
well, you know what? Maybe it's not feminine energy, but I'm just aware that I just feel differently pretty much every 5 minutes. I change so much. And so that's why my art is always different, and I just never really know what the hell is going to happen. It's very mercurial.
What are Milton Avery colors?
Okay, so they're a lot of soft.
Yeah, they're soft, and they're often women, and there's something curved and soft. The pictures. I mean, they're abstractly women. Wait a minute, I'll get a book.
You could even say fuzzy colors.
What?
Fuzzy, sort of fuzzy, beautiful, melded.
Does he do a lot of figure drawing? Is that what he does?
I don't have a Milton Avery book in my studio, so I can't really show you.
I'll look him up.
Absolutely wonderful. I once did a copy of a Milton Avery for a client. They wanted a decorator wanted a copy of a particular Milton Avery. So when I did it, I wrote on the back, copy of Milton Avery by Alexandra Sheldon. And I learned a lot about how he painted by doing that copy.
I should
Really
do that, because I have a book of his right now. I just found a calendar of his.
I'm practically covering up my whole collage, but I don't really like a lot of it. So. Oh, this is cool. Oh, really strange. But you know what? I just love to try new things and I might have to cut the whole thing in half. When desperate, cut the whole thing in half.
I remember that one teacher I had that wasn't you, and she told me I needed to learn how to do things large. So I did this huge thing and then cut it in half. Because I don't work large. I didn't want to.
Well, I might just have, I'm into doing this, cutting things up a lot. Oh, you know what? I might have to place, maybe I have to make cards out of these.
That's a good idea.
I know, I'm kind of in the mood to. I don't know. I didn't expect to do that, but. Let's see.
Well, we'll be sending some out for the next election, so
Say what?
we'll send some out for the next election.
Okay, you know, I love these cards, so. It's kind of small. I think I'd rather work bigger, but maybe I'll just do a small one. I think I'll work on a bigger one next time, but. I haven't done cards for a long time. I did not expect to do this, but this is what's happening, so. Just came back from New York, saw the Whitney Biennial, saw some shows at MoMA. And I also saw the 9/11 memorial, which I had never seen. It was extremely amazing, I thought.
Were there many people there, Alexandra?
Yes, it was Easter Day.
Oh,
It was just packed. It was packed. The biennial was very perplexing to me. There was a lot of video that one needed lots of time to see, and I just didn't have that much time there at the Whitney. So, but there's just so little painting now, you know, it's like, I think there were some really, really cool things, but I'm always disappointed by the lack of painting, I guess. Now, I don't know why, but that's all this one is. That's just going to be that one. So,
So you put white over things? Is that what you just did?
yeah, I worked with white back in.
Oh,
There's a card.
I like it.
I don't even know why I use the tape, but the tape makes me feel secure somehow. So I'm gonna do a couple of these, and then maybe I could see if I can work on a bigger shape. Where's the other one? A little bit wasteful with the tape, but okay. Just putting a little bit of tape on there. And I'm going to keep trying to simplify, simplify, simplify. Saw some beautiful Ellsworth Kelly pieces at the Modern, and also bought 2 books on Hannah Hawk that just came out. Who's a wonderful collage artist, German collage artist. I'm going to have to do a class on her soon.
What was
And
it at Whitney? I mean, the bicentennial, what was, who were they showing?
Oh, at the Whitney?
Yeah,
Well, there's 71 artists who got
Wow.
into competition. So, you know, a lot of artists I never really, I didn't know. But actually, there's also a show of really cool paintings at the Whitney that's like 1900 to 1940 American painters like Birchfield and Hopper, and there's this beautiful sketch of Hopper's cats that I just loved. Let's see here. Just loved that piece. Now, is it kind of a cop out to just suddenly do cards? Maybe, but
sometimes it has to get moving though.
you know, and also I am working with kind of an exhaustion from taking care of a baby for 30 hours
And
by
getting
myself.
for show.
Well, just coming back from New York, and I don't know. But sometimes I just revert to cards because it's another way to simplify, you know, and if you're feeling overwhelmed. And I think there's nothing shabby about making small pieces. Nothing. I think small is actually quite challenging. Just like large is challenging. They're all challenging. But it's just wonderful to make little cards. And then Helen and just all of you, sometimes then I put a piece back in. Like I introduce the white shapes, and then I actually collage something back in, which is really cool. So I've been doing some large collages for my show, and I've been using this method a lot. Really enjoy it. And why did I know I wanted a shape over this white shape? Because I just felt it. It just felt naked. It felt like it wasn't right. Just a feeling. That's what I really bank on as an artist, are my intuitions. Like, oh, and you're all doing it all the time. I want something in that corner. Oh, that looks too naked. Oh, that doesn't work. Studio hasn't been cleaned. My studio is so funky right now. It's so great. I love it. These are kind of cute. I'm gonna do this size, I think. Oh, maybe I'll do a little bit bigger. Yeah, I don't know why I feel like cutting them down today. That's a nice size. I'll work on this size. Okay, because I'm gonna I think I'm just gonna cut this one down. I love cutting things up. Go for it. Well, this is the trouble with improvisation. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. Maybe, I mean, I didn't expect to go in this direction. Oh. I just suddenly I just need to cut everything up today. I don't really know why. What the hell's going on here? Feels good.
Oh my gosh. Come on.
Cindy, are you on?
No. I mean, I can see you in a little tiny screen, but that's it.
Okay, see if you can go to active speaker.
Active
Is it-
speak.
Can you go to gallery view?
No,
And then you can see all of us?
no.
No, because there's usually a thing that says active speaker.
Right, right. No, I saw that before, but the screen's changed. I don't know what happened. Let's see.
Unfortunately, I'm not very good with technology myself. Can barely handle it. So I'm the worst person to tell you what to do. So one thing about Winslow Homer is he oh, actually I'm probably going to get his history mixed up with somebody else.
Many damn artists.
I know. I shouldn't start spouting something about him because I'll probably get it wrong. It's just his watercolors are just too freaking beautiful. But there was this sense with Sargent anyway, that watercolor was sort of his personal favorite, because he had to do a lot of bread and butter paintings, you know, portraits of people to make a living. And then watercolors were kind of his own time. And of course, to me, his watercolor, there's just nothing like his watercolors. I mean, they're just mind blowing.
The way he does light is amazing.
Really amazing. So now I have white space underneath. I think I want to put a little more white space on top. It's also really interesting if you get into putting white space back in, you can really mess around with the kind of paper you use. Like I've got beautiful printmaking paper. I've got just plain sketch white paper. It all feels different. I mean, it all has a different sense. Helen, are you kind of, and all of you, do you see how it's kind of fun to have this window?
Yeah, it's very fun. And then I see that I might want to put some stuff back on top too.
Right. And maybe not. Yeah. And by the way, be aware of things like, this is the barcode. This is a big symbol in our life. Everything you buy has a barcode on it. A parking ticket with a date. This is just a month ago. Just these things they're kind of cool. They're like all the detritus, right, in our life reflects our life. And in 50 years, people are going to go, oh yeah, that's from like 2024, the 2020s. It's very cool. It's a really great aspect of collage. I think just the stuff that seems very, very random, really, yes, maybe random, and then not random at all. Maybe I need a little piece of color in here. One time, a very astute person came into my studio, painter I have a lot of respect for, and she said, Alexandra, everything is happening on the edges. And I knew exactly what she meant. And what she meant was I was really working on the edges, because when I work with students, people often don't have consciousness of edges. And I'm always doing so much teaching about consciousness of edges that I kind of went overboard. and it was like really amazing that she said that. So sometimes something needs to go right in the middle, because it's like, if it's always in the edge, then it can be kind of. I feel like I'm in such a strange weather pattern. I've been hearing rain for.
I hear wind all the time. Well, not right now, but it just roared around the house. Yesterday, I just got in my pajamas at like 5 o'clock, just was one of those days you just wanted to stay in your.
The baby went to sleep at 10 of 7 last night.
Did you too, or not?
Of course not. It was horrible. I couldn't go to sleep until like 11:30, and I was like, oh my God, she's been asleep for 5 hours. Like, I was so scared she'd wake up just when I fell asleep, but she didn't get up. She slept for 13 and a half hours.
Wow.
But she didn't nap yesterday. Excuse me. I don't like it. Didn't feel right. Oops. So sometimes I use tape on a piece and sometimes I don't. But I like borders. I sometimes really like borders. So what did we learn today about browns, grays, off-whites, beiges? We learned how important they are and how they hold up and show off the showy colors. They're kind of like the ballerina who holds up about another ballerina. They don't seem to be doing anything, but they're incredibly important. And they give you that, they allow the bright colors to just pop and be beautiful and showy. So the next time you go into a museum, look for all the grays. Look at all the grays. Look at all the tones. Look at all the different tonalities. And I thought it was really cool that Dee brought that up. It did distract me a little bit, but it was a great discussion. And I do think, you know, it's like contrast in a piece. When I was painting landscapes, I was always like, where's the darkest place? Where's the lightest place? You know, and these aren't rules, because you might be painting a seascape where everything is all foggy. Or Libby, who was the artist you were showing?
Milton Avery.
Milton Avery. Like Milton Avery has a lot of sort of foamy, beautiful colors. Keep your hands moving. Do not think. Thinking is so overrated for art. And you might think when you're applying for a grant, or if you have to write an essay about your work, that's a different part of the artist brain. But when you're working, there's a kind of letting go of thinking. And the main thing is to have fun. The main thing is to do something because you love doing it. But you don't have to love it every minute, because that doesn't really work either. I mean, if somebody does love making art every minute, all power to them. But most of us, there's quite a lot of suffering involved. And like, why the hell do I do this when it doesn't pay me anything? And why do I care so much when nobody else cares? And, you know, all these kind of weird thoughts come in that are ridiculous, but they're normal. They're part of it. What do? I put on music. Music helps me work, as it kind of makes me happy. And then I get a flow going in the studio, and I can't really work with under 4 hours. 3, barely. 2 hours, I'm already staring at the clock and I don't feel free. I feel pressured. So I love a big chunk of time. I like hours to work so I can relax into the process. And that's hard to get in today's world, you know. I've also learned that it's really hard to mix business and art making. So if you have to write something, if you have to do a whole bunch of computer stuff, it might be better to spend that day doing all of that stuff. Because then to switch your brain into another place, it's really hard. I find that's true. Total improv. Hmm. Okay, we are just about at 1/4 past. This one really turned into a train wreck. And you know what? Train wreck pieces are really great because then when you work into them, you don't care because you're like going, oh, I kind of lost it. Oh, well, I guess this piece is. So in a way, you have to be careful of the pieces that you get really attached to, like, oh God, this looks really good, but it's not finished. Oh no, what do I do? But if you have a train wreck piece, you kind of go, well, it doesn't really matter what I do because it's so completely horrible. And that, so there's a strange gift in a train wreck piece. And one of my collages in the show is called Battleground because it went through so many different stages and I just thought it's completely wrecked. And then I just kept letting go with it. And I don't even know if it's any good, but I think it's going to go in the show because it was a battleground. All right. Oh my God, this is so fun.